Quilting clips versus pins, who will win? So happy to be here today. What I'm going to be doing is doing a little challenge as I just started a new quilt. It has lots of different pieces, but I want to see which one is better. Are pins better or are quilting clips better when it comes to sewing a quilt? So for these little quilting clips, I got them off my Amazon Prime Day order. I will ensure to link a video at the top so you can see that if you want to see what else I got. But this challenge is going to come up with 3 different battles essentially to see which one is better. The first will be if you just have like 2 pieces that were pieced together once and then sewing those into a straight line. The next will be doing a little bit bigger of a piece that has been pieced together multiple times. And then the third will be actually combining all 3 pieces of the quilt together, a front, a back, and a batting to see which is better and which holds up. Is it going to be these pins or is it going to be some quilting clips? Let's get the battle started. Stuffing is our unofficial moderator for these battles. Our first one though is piecing 2 smaller triangle pieces together along the center seam to make sure that they match up. So the first part of this was I was going to try using pins. So I am much more familiar with pins as I've used them before, but you know, one of the cons is that they can prick you. So I laid out the 2 different pins right on the seam right there so I could take it straight across. Next, I did the exact same process using my quilting clip. So I have 2 very similar triangular pieces that I would need to take a seam along the center to connect them. So I laid them out and then I used a quilting clip to connect them right at that center seam. I will say that I only had to use 1 clip as it was a little bit bigger than a pin. So I'm going to take the exact same seam straight down. So first up was sewing the pins. I found this very easy to do, as with the pins I don't necessarily need to take them out if they are perpendicular to the seam. The next one was sewing the quilting clip. So this was a little harder as I did have to remove the quilting clip to sew that seam since I was using a smaller seam allowance, but overall not too bad. For the winner of this round, I would say that the pins won. The next battle was pinning 2 rectangular pieces together. So these had been sewn before. As you can see, there's lots of different pieces coming together. So I started out using pins. This was a little thicker, so definitely started to get a little harder with it. And then I also used a quilting clip, which again, since there are so many different pieces, I had to make sure it connected through. First up was sewing using the pins. I would say that this actually was a little trickier this time as there were so many layers that I really had to make sure that I was able to pull the pin out. So I'd say that the pin was harder. Next was quilting clips, and they actually were a lot easier as it helped the seam stay flat and open, and I could actually move faster through it. So for round 2, quilting clips win. The final round was the full quilt holding it together. So what I had was I had the front of my quilt, I had the batting, and I had the back of my quilt, and I'm going to be machine sewing this to quilt the pattern into it, so I needed to stay in place. So first I used a quilting clip to see if I could connect all 3 of those layers to hold them down. It was very easy to do. Next, I used a pin. So this actually was very challenging as the batting is thick and those 2 pieces of fabric also add to it. So I would definitely say in this one that the quilting clip won. So which one won? Was it the pins? Was it the quilting clips? While I love pins, I definitely will be using them. I think that the quilting clips won out for the quilt. So the quilting clips were able to hold the fabric a lot better. It was able to keep the seam open, and I found them much easier to use once I got the hang of it with sewing. As you can see that I've actually started to use them for the entire quilt now. And while I think the pins were a great alternative and they helped me a lot, especially when I first started quilting, quilting clips are definitely the way to go and what I would recommend. If you like this video and want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe.